Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Moothart. I am the PPC architect at Portent, which is just a fancy way of saying I'm the top individual contributor. Uh, my agency, Portent, we are a ClearLink digital agency, so we are a full-service marketing agency founded right here in Seattle in '95. Most of our workforce is right here in Seattle as well, including myself. We do also have some people based down in Salt Lake City, which is where our parent company, ClearLink, is based. And we do all those services listed in bullet points on the right there. I'm not going to read them, but we do the whole gamut of digital marketing. A quick fun facts about me. I have been at Portent since 2010, graduated from college, found an internet marketing internship on Craigslist, been there ever since, worked out pretty well. I'm based right out of here, Seattle. I'm a longtime season ticket holder of the Seattle Sounders FC, and as of last night, the North American champion Seattle Sounders FC. To paraphrase our president, that is a big effing deal. Me and 68,000 of my friends were very loud and rambunctious in the stadium downtown last night. And then my favorite hobby, me and my husband like to go brewery hopping. We're big beer people. If you're here visiting and you're thinking to yourself, I like beer, come find me. I'll give you some suggestions. All right, let's get to it. I am here today to talk about micro conversions. A couple of quick things just as context for this presentation. I will be speaking about micro conversions from a digital advertising perspective. However, micro conversions can apply to pretty much anything that you do in your business, whether it's at least from the digital aspect. So whether you work in SEO, content strategy, analytics, whatever, these principles can apply to what you do. So even though I will be speaking about digital advertising, you can take this and say, I'm not a digital advertiser, but this makes sense in my context because of X, Y, Z. Second thing is that my presentation will be a little word heavy. So if at any point you look at that and be like, that's useful, go ahead and take a picture, take a screenshot for those of you watching online, and I hope you all get access to this deck at some point later after this conference. So just feel free to do that. So the purpose of this presentation is to understand what micro conversions are and why they're vital to driving more leads, more revenue, and more profit. There's the key word, more profit for your business. The takeaways that I want you to get from this presentation, I realize this is now just saying 111. It's supposed to say 1, 2, 3. My apologies. Understand what micro conversions are and why they're important. Learn how to track them appropriately, and then learn how to evaluate if they're driving users down the funnel to increase your actual primary key performance indicators, things like your initial lead submission or a transaction. So let's start with the basics. What are micro conversions exactly? So very clear definition. Maybe I need to keep facing forward. A micro conversion is an action a user can take on your website that indicate they're engaging with your content and may be interested in becoming a customer of yours down the line. So it's not the actual lead submission, the contact us form, it's not the phone call, it's not the e-commerce transactions, it's the actions they take on your site before that give you the signal of, oh, this is promising. Examples of micro conversions on your website. It can be a download of a PDF. It can be a subscription to your email list. It can be a view of an informational video that a user has completed all the way through. It can be a session in which there are visits to multiple key pages on your site, and that average duration or that duration is far higher than average, for example. And more. That's not it. Like pretty much anything, any action or event that can be tracked on your site that correlates with higher KPI conversion rates down the line. Like any of those actions and events can be micro conversions. Depending on what analytics platform you use to evaluate the data on your website, you can often see a series of different events that people can take on your site, and you can put one or more than one of them in like an audience segment and see how those people typically convert with your actual primary KPIs. And if you see any events where you say, well, somebody downloaded a PDF guide And when they actually go on to submit a lead at a rate of 6% when my site-wide average is 1.5. That's pretty important, useful information to know. So any actions on your site that correlate with higher KPI conversion rates that can be tracked. And the reason that these are so important is because, especially in digital advertising, which is what I do day in and day out, using only your primary KPIs in your advertising platforms and using only those as your conversion points, it isn't good enough. You're missing out on so much. And let me give you the following slide to show an example. So this is part one. A user sees one of your video ads on YouTube featuring a service you offer. They click through and spend time exploring more on your site, visiting several pages, spending several minutes reading through your content and absorbing it. But then they leave without doing anything further on that visit. Part two. Later, they search for something relevant to that service and see your search ad. They remember your brand from the video they watched and the time they spent on your site engaging with your content. They decide to click through. They spend some more time engaging with content on site, maybe reading your customer testimonials, watching some more of your informational videos. But eventually they decide to leave your site without taking any further action. Later again, part three, they search for your brand, click through to your site via your organic listing. They fill out a contact us form, indicated they want more information from one of your sales representatives. By using only your primary KPI in your as your conversion point in your paid advertising platform, these steps are being missed. And if you're especially if you have campaigns, for example, I work with a lot of display campaigns targeting new users, not remarketing. And the biggest mistake with new clients that we get is that they have these campaigns and they drive to a landing page with minimal content and a contact us form. And that is the equivalent of going on a first date and 5 minutes into the conversation of somebody brand new saying, "Hey, you want to move in with me?" There's a small chance that will work. I would be scared if it did, but chances are that's not going to work at all. You don't want to show a new potential user who may be interested in becoming a customer down the line, and then just say, "Just contact us." You don't need to know. Just contact us, become a lead, and then that doesn't work. So tracking these steps and using them as conversion points is important. So these actions are all micro conversions. They all played a part in this user's journey towards becoming a lead. And if you're not including these micro conversions as conversion points, your campaigns are ignoring them. That is the key point. Over the past several years, platforms on Google, Microsoft, Facebook, whatever digital advertising platform that you can think of, they have spent a lot of time and money developing audience targeting algorithms that are very complex, very expensive, and now quite good at what they do. And conversion signals are a big part of what tells these platforms who should I target your ad to, so you can spend more money with my platform and get you more potential customers. So you do not want your platform to ignore these micro conversions. You want to give them credit. Counting these actions as conversions allows your campaigns, especially those geared towards upper funnel and mid funnel users that aren't ready to convert yet, to use them as signals in their targeting and bidding functionalities. And this is key. This is why this is important, not just to keep micro conversions in mind, but to actually use them as conversion points. So, quick, part two should be pretty quick. It's just about tracking them, making sure that you're tracking them appropriately. For the sake of simplicity, these slides in the section will refer to screenshots from Google Ads. It's a platform I work in a lot. However, the following principles about tracking apply to any platform in which you can utilize a conversion pixel, which is pretty much all of them. So just please keep that in mind. So creating a micro conversion is just like any other conversion that you create in your platform. The process is exactly the same. For example, in Google, you can create a conversion. This one here is an example of a PDF click. Somebody clicked through on a PDF guide and wanted to read that. Set up the conversion the exact same way as a lead submission, as a phone call, click to call event. You can leave it as a primary action, meaning you can just create the conversion and it applies to every campaign in your account equally. They will all take it into account. You can also set it as secondary action, which means we'll collect the data, the platform will collect the data, but your campaign will not utilize it unless you specifically tell that campaign to use it. So you might have some scenarios where you have a small subset of campaigns where you know you want to use these type of micro conversions, but you don't necessarily want to mess with the rest of your conversion data too much in other campaigns, so you leave them out. This is an alternative way to do this, is to set it as a secondary action and then go into your campaign settings and change it from the account default to whatever you want that campaign to actually pay attention to. Again, this is Google. You can do this on other platforms as well. Just depends on what your campaign setup is, what your strategies are for those campaigns, and how you as the advertiser want to structure everything. Big warning, and this is the biggest obstacle I have found in convincing my clients that they need to be tracking micro conversions in their platform, is that they typically use the conversion data in that platform in their reporting to their stakeholders. And adding micro conversions into your account will affect your conversion data. Once before and after implementation, the data will not be the same. And that is the biggest hang up and obstacle that I have found, is because they say, well, I'm just so used to using the numbers in Google to report. If you add these, they'll completely mess everything up. Yes, they will. So, before and after implementation, it won't be consistent, but it is necessary to add these conversions because your campaigns need these signals in their bidding and audience targeting. So the solution is pretty much use a separate analytics platform that is unaffected by adding micro conversions as your source of truth. Because that way, before and after implementation, your primary KPIs will stay exactly the same in that other platform. The attribution model will stay exactly the same, and you can refer to that in terms of keeping reporting consistent month over month, year over year, et cetera, et cetera. All right, I told you that. Tracking, very easy, very quick. Evaluating impact, the real question. You've been talking about micro conversions, makes sense. Does it work? Well, let's see. Do these actions actually lead to increased transactions and lead submissions? Does it lead to more revenue and more profit, like I just told you at the beginning that they do? So there's 3 things to evaluate to see if these micro conversions are doing their job. One, it's the change in the micro conversion events themselves from whatever platform that you're using. The second is the change in the primary KPI volume alone. And then the third is the change in volume of users who complete both a micro conversion event and then go on to complete a primary KPI. So an example, one of my clients, a lead-based B2B client in the communication solutions vertical, and this is analysis quarter over quarter. At the end of one quarter, we said we need to add micro conversions in this account. Let's see what happens. And just some quick context. In the following comparison, both total spend and click volume decreased between 5 and 10% quarter over quarter, just for context. It's not like these numbers came with a sudden upshot in hundreds of double, triple the click volume. Everything went down slightly, and here are the results we found. Then this is all using a separate analytics platform outside of Google Ads. So this is tracking specifically the micro conversion that we used was a PDF guide download. The micro conversion event volume itself from before our campaigns took into account the PDF download and afterwards, just telling it, use this as a success signal, saying, hey, this is a conversion, get more of these. That volume increased 280%. And the unique events of those increased over 200%. So that's tripling the micro conversion volume itself, just by telling the campaigns, pay attention to this. Okay, makes sense, straightforward. How about the actual KPIs? The actual contact us lead submissions. Well, our assists went up by a similar percentage, about 270%. That last click and direct conversion point, look at that. These are the actual lead submissions, up 681%. Does anybody want to just guess in your head what percentage of people who both completed a PDF and then submitted an actual contact form in a following visit? Does anybody want to guess how much that increased? 1,100%. 11 times more people quarter over quarter both did the PDF download and then on a follow-up visit said, I'm interested in learning more. I want to contact information from your sales representative. 1100% adding micro conversions into your account works. If you tell these campaigns to use these as signals, the campaigns, especially if you have a very reliable structure in whatever platform you're using, this will take care of itself. Just by telling it, hey, pay attention to this. So, conclusion. The conversion signals matter. Factoring in micro-conversions is what's needed to give your platform the signals it needs to know that these campaigns are doing its job, especially those mid and high funnel campaigns where you know you're not going to get a primary KPI right away. It's not their function. Don't evaluate them based on solely that KPI. Without micro-conversion tracking, your higher funnel campaigns will struggle because they're not meant to acquire these leads. And this isn't about optics. This isn't about adding in a point so somebody who doesn't know as much about the account as you looks at higher conversion numbers and says, great. It's about, which I think, these micro-conversion signals are needed so you know these campaigns are doing their job. And by giving them credit, the credit that they're due, you can ensure you're giving these users the right content and the right calls to action to move them down the funnel so they want to come back and become your customer. And in time, more of these users should submit leads and transactions at higher rates as they return to your site and engage with more of your content. And the bottom line, if there's nothing else that you take away, just take a picture of this slide. By using micro conversions as well as hard conversions, your primary KPIs in your digital advertising conversion tracking, you can drive more leads and sales down the line at more efficient costs and rates. More sales, more revenue, more profit. And if you have a very good advertising account already, all it takes is adding in the micro conversion points and telling your campaigns, pay attention to these. So again, more revenue and more profit. And that's the name of the game. Thank you. So I realized that was very quick. This was almost 50 slides, and I went through that in 15 minutes. So we got plenty of time for questions if anybody has any.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned that using something other than Google Analytics to track the overall rather than just the micro conversions. What would you recommend?
Well, other than Google Ads in this case, it's whatever the platform itself. So Google Analytics is actually a great option. If you some of our clients use Adobe for their tracking. So basically any platform where the conversion itself is not changing.
Something outside of the Google Ads metrics that you're getting.
Same with Microsoft advertising, same with Facebook. So
I'm going to do one more follow-up question real quick. So one of the challenges we run into all the time is that we recommend micro conversions, but our clients have no idea what micro conversions would have added value. When you ask a question like, what is it that people typically do that ends up resulting in a purchase? How do you guide them?
So our agency uses Google Analytics a lot. In that platform, you can track all different types of either built-in events or custom events. And they can pretty much be anything on your site. And I know our analytics team is pretty good about, hey, let's track everything. Once you have some data built up around events, you can use those events in audience segments and then just take a look at your primary KPI over X amount of time and say, okay, here's my lead submission site-wide. Let's say it's at 1.5%. Okay, now let's apply the audience of people who download a PDF guide, for example. Oh, my lead submission rate is at 4%. That's considerably higher. That's a signal. That's the action you should track as a micro conversion.
So I'm curious with like the movement of GA4 becoming more and more popular, the doomsday of next July or whatever that is. To me, it seems like all the investment that the companies are putting into getting smarter about tracking all this stuff to help their algorithms, they're also kind of implementing into analytics platform improvements like that. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's helping make it easier to find those micro conversions for people that aren't as micro conversion savvy, I guess?
Yes. What I love about the upcoming GA4, which everybody will be required to use by next summer, FYI, if you have not created GA4 accounts, do it now so you have year over year data come next summer. Basically, as much out of the box as possible, they have made it very easy to track pretty much everything, which is very beneficial. The one big difference between GA4 and Universal Analytics, the current iteration, is that Universal Analytics has a lot of out-of-the-box reporting that so many of us have gotten used to, whereas GA4 is pretty much, here's the data, big blob. Go make your own reports, go make your own segments, go make this worth your while. We're going to give you a lot less templated reports that Universal Analytics currently has. And it's frustrating at first, especially if you're so used to going to a certain traffic source medium. Like, that's where I get my data. Where will I find that? You can find the same thing. You just set up your own reports and you select the metrics that are most useful to you. So it is frustrating at first if you're transitioning from Universal Analytics to GA4, but once you get used to it, the fact that you're kind of required to customize everything, it will allow you to reset expectations with the client, in my case, where you say, look, I know you're used to seeing everything here, same data, just in a new way. Let's get used to looking at here, because come next year, you're not going to be able to access this anymore. It doesn't matter. So resetting the expectation and then being able to say, here's what's important to us and to you, and we're going to make this like our standard reporting from now on, versus relying on an out-of-the-box report from Google.
Awesome, thank you.
My question is, so if we were to add the micro conversions into our campaigns, is how do you adjust the CPA? If we were going based off of like sales before and now we're adding those in, it's not going to be the same number.
Correct. So if you have a campaign, you're used to only tracking your primary KPI and you're using maximized conversions with a target CPA threshold. In that first week, you need to keep an eye on those campaigns very closely because the CPA will be directly impacted. So if your CPA is here, for example, tracking only the primary KPIs, you add in the micro conversions, naturally that CPA is probably going to dip and it's going to say like, oh, I'm under. I can get a lot more aggressive. That's Google saying, I can spend a lot more of your money, can't I? And you might not want it to spend that much more of your money. So as you add those in, you might have to gradually bring that target CPA down and down to a more sustainable level. And you might have to do that. Google doesn't like it when you adjust those types of things per campaign like more than once a week because it likes to learn things. You might have to be changing it multiple times in that first week to be like, okay, CPA can't be anymore because my budget is here, not here. So you'll have to gradually bring it down. And it's just it is a little bit of a trial and error. You can do, if you have all the data at your disposal, you can do some back-end math to know, I know how many micro conversions are likely to come through this campaign, so this is what the CPA needs to be. You can try that. I find it just as effective to start implementing and then just keeping a very close eye on it day after day and bringing it down accordingly.
Cool. And one more question while I have this. For any like bottom of the funnel campaigns that do a good job of getting those actual sales, do you still recommend putting the micro conversions and switching that up, or would you like leave those ones alone and focus on the top and middle?
I hate giving this answer, but it depends. I do have a client where I have a lot of very low funnel search campaigns that are very successful, that have very great data, and I don't want to mess with them. So I have put in those micro conversions as secondary actions and applied them to only other campaigns. I have other accounts that are very display heavy, and I say, look, these micro conversions are going to help all these campaigns, so let me just apply it as a primary action. If you know your account very well and you know these campaigns do their job very well and you don't want to mess with them too much, I completely respect saying, I'll add these in as a secondary action, apply them to some, leave others alone. That's a perfectly reasonable thing so long as you have the data to back up your decision to do that.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I would say give a round of applause for me, but let's give a round of applause for North American champion Seattle Sounders. Woo!